What's up, terrible roommates? It's the How to Be a Terrible Roommate crew hitting you with a podcast. Today we're going to talk about your terrible roommate stories that you, the viewers, have sent us. Let's get started.
Awesome. Our first story comes from one of our viewers. They're saying, my first semester, something was stinking up our fridge, so my roommate decided to clean it out late one night. Turns out there was a lot of old food in Tupperwares, and she threw it all in the trash and put the Tupperware in the sink and left it there all night. I woke up the next morning to the stinkiest apartment in all of Rexburg, and I was the one to clean it up, still salty. And same with me, I'd be salty.
Yikes.
So salty after that, because that, my gosh, horrible.
I'm already salty. Like, that would just make me even more salty.
Dirty dish.
Yikes, that's terrible. Okay, we have another dishes one because dishes are literally the worst. This one says, I have a terrible roommate experience. It was spring break of 2015 and my roommates had plans to go home or on vacation for the week. I, on the other hand, would be working, but it was okay because I would have the apartment all to myself and all of the dishes my roommates left me. Yes, that's right. My roommates left a mountain of all their used dishes in the sink for me to take care of. Pretty terrible if you ask me. That is so terrible. I would be so mad.
I feel like these two stories are like a combination of our whole kitchen video. Like everything that could go wrong in a kitchen, these two stories just like sum it up.
Seriously.
No, seriously. My gosh.
I had a roommate one semester who, for some reason, had this like Costco-sized barrel of Caesar salad dressing, and she insisted on keeping it, even though I never, not once, saw her pull it out and use it. And even though I was only in an apartment of 4 girls, and we had one fridge, it took up like the entire shelf of the fridge. So we were all forced to like maneuver around this barrel, and like one time I left it out like as a hey, you should throw this away reminder, and she got so mad at me. She was like, no, I'm gonna use this. And I'm like, okay. It was a pretty rough time.
Yikes.
I relate to that on such a level. Like, there was this girl that I was rooming with. She was the tiniest human being I think I've ever met. Like, so tiny. But she had the most food. Like, she had so much food in her refrigerator. Well, in our refrigerator. We had 2 refrigerators. I had 6 girls in my apartment. So 3 girls got each, if that makes sense. But again, like she made the weirdest stuff too. Like, I don't know if she like loved Pinterest and would just see like weird food and then she would just make it. But she always just had a stockpile. Like, and so the problem with it was though, like, cool, you keep it on your shelf, whatever, I don't really care. But she would make this weird food that already stunk. And she would just keep it in these bowls, but she wouldn't put them in like Tupperware. She wouldn't cover the bowls, like nothing. So she would just stick it on her shelf. But because there was so much food, she would forget about it and she wouldn't eat it. So like weeks would go by and we would open the fridge and it would smell, but we knew exactly where to go. Like we knew the source of the smell. And so we would look in these bowls and they would just have mold. Like, they would just be so moldy, and we'd be like, can you like clean out your bowl? And she's like, no, I'm gonna eat it. Like, she would do it every time. Every time. Yeah. We're like, there's mold on it. She's like, no, there's not. And she like just wouldn't do it. But then after a month, she'd like clean it out and be like, oh my gosh, this is so gross. And we're like, yeah, I know. It was so bad. One time she made this weird drink. It was out of like ginger and water and like cucumber. I don't even know. Another Pinterest find. And she made it. She was like, oh, this is so good. But then she like capped it and put it in the refrigerator and like never touched it again. And so my roommate and I were cleaning out the fridge for a clean check or whatever. And we pulled it out and opened the cap. And it was so moldy that like we just kind of set it down and we were like, hey, can you like take care of this? It's really gross. So that is like it was so bad. It was so bad. But yeah, that was my kitchen story.
Oh my gosh.
I'd say like one of my kitchen stories that I've had once is, well, it's not really a story. It's more of a experience that I've had. Just with people not putting their food in the trash, they just put it in the sink. That's probably my biggest pet peeve with dishes, especially a lot of my roommates. I think this was like 3 semesters ago. I'd have a roommate that no matter what he ate, if he had leftovers, he would just put it in the sink and he would try to just stuff it down the drain, and it would clog up everything. And we had to tell him, like, bro, you can't keep doing this, dude. Like, it's filling up. The water would be filled up all the way to the top, and like we would have to we would have to go in and get our hands and like to unclog it.
Wet food.
Wet
I'd be
food,
like, hey, Walmart,
and like
rubber
and
gloves.
like lukewarm kind of cold water. It was so disgusting.
It makes me want to cry.
And so like we already know who it was because like everyone else like cleans off their plates, and like we just confronted him like, bro, you gotta stop like clean off your plate. It takes like 2 seconds to do. Like, don't just put it in the sink and like wash it. And like
Yes, it takes 2 seconds to clean your plate.
2 seconds, because that 2 seconds will save like a mound of like without 10 minutes of trying to get your food out of the drain. So disgusting.
So gross. Okay, I have a good story about a roommate forgetting about food.
Spill the tea, girl.
Okay, I had a roommate and she would eat smoothies every morning, but she would put them in those like insulated water bottles, you know? But one time she made a smoothie and put it in this water bottle and put the lid on, and then she forgot about it and put the water bottle in like next to her bed on the windowsill. Oh, no. And it was like May. And so she forgot about it for literally a week. And a week later, the water bottle exploded and the lid flew off and like hit the ceiling, and there was gross, warm, moldy smoothie everywhere. In her bedroom.
Oh, that is so
It
gross.
was disgusting.
Okay, first of all, who puts a smoothie in a windowsill? Like, why is that your first? I'm just gonna sit this here for later. Like,
That's my go-to.
Pinterest. It's Pinterest as well.
It was so gross.
disgusting.
Oh man.
That's so bad.
Oh man. Kind of moving on, like I love that this is such a vent session because needed. But like it's not even just the kitchen. Like the amount of hair of my roommates I have to clean out of the drain of the bathtub every morning is ridiculous. And like I've had friends who've had roommates who will leave so much hair on the shower walls that they'll spell their name.
Oh my gosh.
With the hair. It's not even a question of whose hair is this, because it's spelled out on the shower wall.
Okay, so first of all, like, I did not know that women shed as much as they do until I got married. And I started finding hair everywhere. So if you're like a single man out there, just like be ready because it comes at you hard. Yes, I am. But the one nasty hair thing about guys is like, I'm sure like some of you can relate. Like when guys shave in the morning, like it doesn't always go all the way down the drain. And I had a roommate in one of my apartments in previous years that like our drain kind of like was partially clogged and maintenance just hadn't fixed it yet. And so the water would like kind of fill up a little bit every time we turned on the faucet. And so our roommate would go in and shave and he'd like leave the water running and it'd fill up. And the hair, like all the little like hairs he shaved off would be like floating, right? And then when it drained, they would like dry to the side of the sink. So you have this crusty ring of all this like man's facial hair all the way around the side of the sink, and he just didn't clean it ever. So it was disgusting, and like people just like wouldn't wash their hands in our sink, which was gross. But
Yeah, that is disgusting.
I'm so sorry.
I didn't realize that was a thing until I got married either. And I grew up with 4 boys. Like my brothers were there, but like I'm so much younger than my brothers that they were pretty much all like grown and gone by the time I was coherent like enough to be like, ew, hair. But like it's a thing. I have to like tell my husband, hey, that's gross, clean it, like fix yourself. I had a roommate, actually, so this is a situation where I was a bad roommate. I apologize to my roommate out there that had to deal with this. But I had a roommate once that she got bad migraines constantly, like really bad migraines. And she would always like midday take naps. She would black out the curtains or the windows, and she would just sleep. Well, like I didn't know when this was happening and when it wasn't. So I'm a loud person. Like, I'm 3/4 Italian. So I can't really control my levels or anything like that. So I would just open the door and be like, hello, and like, I'm here. And she would just get so mad at me. And I would try to be quiet once I knew that she was like having this bad migraine. But we had a mirror on the back of our door. And for anybody who has one of those full-length mirrors, you know that when you open the door, it like clunks, you know? So I would be like, okay, love you, bye. Like, have a good day. And I would open the door and it would be like clunk, clunk, clunk. And I would like leave. I felt so bad. Or like I would have to go to the bathroom or something. And like in that moment, you know, when you're supposed to be quiet, everything's just a million times more loud. My life. So I apologize to my roommate out there who gets migraines all the time because I was not a very good roommate when that was happening. I'm sorry.
Okay, guys, I think that's it for today. Thank you so much for listening to our podcast.
Our vent session.
Our vent session. Check out our new video this Saturday. We have a couple more videos coming before the end of the project. And let us know what stories you want to hear. Thanks, guys.